Imagine a man so feared that just hearing his name can silence an entire room. He is the most feared man in Mexico. With a single phone call, lives can disappear. Entire families can be erased, not as a threat, but as a warning. That fear is his real power. El Mencho isn't just another drug lord. He commands a criminal empire worth billions, enforced not by publicity but by absolute terror. While others chased fame, flaunted watches, and built narco mansions, he vanished into the mountains, protected by killers and surrounded by silence. Some believe his fortune surpasses El Chapo's fortune. Today we dive into the world of El Mencho, uncovering how much money his cartel really makes, how massive his fortune might be, and what his hidden lifestyle actually looks like. El Mencho didn't come from power or money. He came from nothing. Born in a tiny village in Michoacan in 1966, he grew up farming avocados and dropped out of school by the 5th grade. As a teenager, he was already working for local traffickers, guarding marijuana fields at just 14. Like many in his situation, he crossed into the US chasing a better life, but ended up dealing drugs and got locked up. After doing time, he was deported, and that's when things got serious. Back in Mexico, he briefly became a cop, then flipped sides and joined the Mencho cartel. His rise was fast. He married into the Valencia clan known as Los Quines and gained power quickly. By the 2000s, he was running key territories, feared for how cold and calculating he was. When the Mencho cartel fractured, he made his move, took over the strongest faction called Los Torcidos and rebranded it as CJNG. From there, everything exploded. His cartel expanded fast, armed to the teeth, and wasn't afraid to take on the Mexican state. They even shot down a military helicopter in 2015 to stop his capture. Even as CJNG grew into the most violent and powerful cartel on Earth, almost no one knew what he looked like. He didn't do anything flashy, no interviews, no big mansions. Just safe houses in the mountains, loyal guards, and silence. A ghost with billions and an army, hiding in plain sight. One of the most powerful cartels on the planet means El Mencho isn't counting stacks, he's counting billions. The scale of CJNG's operation is almost hard to wrap your head around. Just from drugs like cocaine, fentanyl, and methamphetamine, estimates say the cartel pulls in well over $15 billion a year. Over time, that kind of money gave CJNG a war chest that rivals legitimate global corporations. One former DEA agent even said that CJNG and its financial arm, Los Quines, had more money than the Sinaloa cartel. That's saying a lot. So how do you even make and hide that much cash? The short answer: diversify everything. Unlike older cartels that mostly focused on drugs, CJNG transformed itself into a full-blown criminal corporation. Narcotics are still the backbone, of course. One of their biggest side businesses has been stealing oil and gasoline by tapping directly into Mexico's pipelines, a practice known as huachicol. According to government reports, this alone has cost Mexico billions in revenue. By the mid-2020s, CJNG was reportedly making hundreds of millions a year just from stolen fuel. On top of that, US investigators uncovered their involvement in scams like ripping off tourists and retirees with fake vacation deals, along with other white-collar crimes designed to wash dirty money. But making money is only half the job. Hiding it is just as important. To do that, El Mencho followed a classic cartel strategy. Funnel the cash into businesses that appear totally normal. Throughout the 2010s, front companies tied to his family and inner circle popped up all over Jalisco. In 2015, the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, dropped the hammer, blacklisting a huge network of businesses connected to CJNG. While it's not openly disclosed which businesses are linked to the CJNG, my investigation uncovered connections to Mizu Sushi Lounge, a Japanese restaurant with locations in Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. The restaurant originally closed due to US sanctions. Sometime later, a new Japanese restaurant called Kenzo Sushi opened in Guadalajara, which was even visited by boxer Canelo Alvarez. A tequila brand called Onze Black, and a luxury cabin rental resort named Las Flores Cabañas in Tapalpa, Jalisco. There was also a prominent advertising firm, J&P Advertising, and even an agricultural company, JJGON, that turned out to be CJNG fronts. And that was only what authorities managed to uncover at first. The Valencia family, El Mencho's in-laws who run Los Quines, are especially skilled at laundering money. They poured drug profits into real estate, shopping centers, gated communities, resorts, even properties outside Mexico. For instance, one shopping plaza in Zapopan, Plaza Los Tules, was under their control. At one point, US officials even identified two bakeries as cartel fronts. One was a bakery cafe called Bake and Kitchen in Zapopan, and the other was an adjacent pastry business in the same plaza. That's how deep this went. CJNG money also flowed into nightclubs, concert promotion companies, for example, a music promoter known as Galistica Diamante, where they laundered money through legitimate concerts with famous artists like El Fantasma, and avocado exports, a huge industry in places like Michoacán and Jalisco. There's also a beautiful beachside resort called Hotelito Desconocido. You can still find it on Google, but you can't book rooms anymore, and it's likely no longer operating. Another example is a large shopping mall called Shaman Ha Center in Playa del Carmen, which is still open to the public. And that's just the beginning. There are many more real estate properties and businesses like the ones you're seeing here. Now here's the twist. Despite having access to all that money, El Mencho didn't live like a stereotypically flashy cartel boss. Most of his money was reinvested into security and survival. Deep in the mountains, he reportedly lives in heavily guarded compounds completely out of sight. One of the most extreme examples of how his money supports his secrecy is the private hospital he allegedly built for himself. Suffering from kidney disease and unable to risk visiting a public hospital, Mencho is said to have bankrolled a hidden clinic in a tiny village called El Alcihuatl. Tucked away in the woods, doctors would quietly treat him there and sometimes treat local residents too, helping him stay healthy while also buying a bit of goodwill. And that's another key part of his strategy. In poor communities under CJNG control, Mencho became a sort of shadow benefactor. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, cartel members were even seen handing out food and supplies in parts of Jalisco, Michoacán, and Veracruz. By helping people survive hard times, he bought loyalty, or at least silence. After all, folks are far less likely to call the police on the guy who's literally feeding their town. By the 2020s, CJNG was widely considered Mexico's most powerful cartel, and El Mencho had become one of the most wanted men on earth. How rich is El Mencho really? That's a tough question because, let's be honest, the guy isn't exactly turning in tax forms every April. But even with all the secrecy, authorities and experts have thrown out some absolutely wild estimates. According to the head of the DEA team in Los Angeles that was hunting him, Agent Kyle Morey, El Mencho may have at least $50 billion in control. Yeah, billion, with a B. He straight up beat what Joaquin El Chapo Guzman had at his peak, which was $12 billion. If those numbers are anywhere close to true, that would make Mencho's cartel one of the richest criminal organizations ever. To put that into perspective, Pablo Escobar was estimated to be worth around $30 billion in the early 90s, and Mencho may have blown past that. Even Ismael El Mayo Zambada reportedly agreed to forfeit about $15 billion after his arrest. And Mencho, none of his fortune has ever been seized because he's never been caught. El Mencho runs CJNG with total control, no factions, no rivalries, just him and his family calling the shots. Unlike the Sinaloa cartel, which is split between different leaders, CJNG stays united. That gives Mencho two big advantages: less internal conflict and full access to the cartel's money. No one else divides the power. He doesn't share control, he owns it. If that money were clean and legit, Mencho would be sitting right next to Mexico's business elite. In fact, the only person clearly richer than him in Mexico would be telecom billionaire Carlos Slim. The idea that a cartel boss could secretly be the second richest man in the country is terrifying. But in the world of drugs and corruption, it's not impossible. Now here's the crazy part. Even with billions, El Mencho never lived like a typical cartel boss. No flashy cars, no jets, no giant mansions. He knew staying invisible was the only way to stay free. One thing he is known for, though, is cockfighting, which earned him the nickname Lord of the Roosters. He reportedly raised prize roosters and hosted secret high-stakes matches deep in cartel territory, where huge bets were placed and only trusted people were allowed in. He's still a fugitive today with a $15 million reward on his head. And while a lot of media have claimed he's seriously ill with kidney problems, there's no solid proof. Those rumors have been floating around for years and are likely false. What is confirmed, though, is that he funded a private clinic hidden in a remote village, not for comfort, but to stay off the radar. As the arrests close in, even his wife, his son, and close family members have been caught. He built a narco empire worth billions, but lives like a ghost, quiet, hunted, and always moving.